Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Build Your Best Life. I am Coach Ricardo Miller, and I am sitting in for Coach Deborah today. You know, the weather is changing, and she is not available, but I'm so honored to be on her board, and I'm so honored to be a part of her team. And so today, I am hosting Build Your Best Life. This is Thursday Live, y'all. And listen, we're going to be talking about one habit. One habit. Now today I'm joined with Brittany Clark. Brittany, what's going on, lady? How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Coach. I'm doing great. How are you?
That is so good to hear. Now let me ask you, this season, are you ready for Christmas? Did you enjoy Thanksgiving? What's going on over there at the Clark's residence?
I am ready for Christmas. We are all decorated. We had a great Thanksgiving with family and friends, and we're ready to get into some Christmas activities.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Brittany, and for those of you guys that are watching, Build Your Best Life is all about helping young men, helping mothers with sons, helping individuals to tap into a reality of you can be intentional about how you structure your life. Okay. Now, Brittany, we're talking about this whole concept of one habit, and I don't know if you remember or have heard about the Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he talked a lot about these principles. Have you ever heard of the book?
Yes, sir. I've read it. I enjoy it. I read it a couple of times a year to stay fresh on it. It's a really good book.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it's a great book for you to read at the end of the year like we are now to set yourself up for the new year. Now, Brittany, this whole concept of proactive versus reactive. Now, I don't know about you, but for a long time, I struggled with being reactive. The whole book on this whole concept of deciding to incorporate highly effective principles leans on the idea that you can't or you shouldn't be reactive but proactive. Now, most people are proactive. I've been proactive for a long time. I'm learning how not to be as proactive, how not to be as reactive. I've been reactive for a long time, and now I'm learning how to be proactive. Over the years, how have you done in that particular area? Have you found yourself, like most people, being reactive? And talk to us a little bit about it.
I would say that's a great question, Coach. For a long time, I was reactive. I felt like I was so behind in life that everything that happened to me, I had to react to it instead of planning my life so that when things would happen, I could take them, not necessarily with a grain of salt, but I could keep the ball rolling and I could handle them without having to scramble to figure out a solution, which is something that he talks about in his book. Like, if you know that something's going to happen tomorrow, you set yourself up today to make sure that it's taken care of without having to scramble.
Well, it's so good that you said that. But Brittany, I can remember, he's like, oh my God, I'm drowning. So much going on wrong that I have no time to think about Saturday. I'm only dealing with this hour.
Yeah.
There are some people who are like, they're only in the hour. And then there are those who are only in the day. Huge problems with that, because I can remember being that kind of way where I didn't think about tomorrow. I didn't think about a week from now. I didn't think about even a year from now. And I found myself always having to out fires, always having to be running from one thing to the next thing. And one of the things that I've been saying a lot is that I don't think it is the will of God for us to be moving from one crisis to the next. Covey's concept of proactive is a major principle, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you started incorporating being proactive, the whole concept of that is built on intentional. Did you find that it's not as common as people need it to be? And give me some examples of why and how you've seen it not being intentional. People aren't being intentional. People are like, well, I love the Lord, but you're not being intentional with prayer. I love people, but you're not being friendly. Oh, I want to be rich, but you're not managing pennies. You're like, are you being intentional? What's your observation on the whole concept of being intentional and this one habit that Covey talks about?
I think that one thing that people forget about is making your time work for you. So, for instance, I know in a month I'm going to need an oil change. And when I put that on my calendar and I'm scheduling that time, an oil change is going to take so long. I'm going to have 45 minutes to sit there. What am I going to do with that 45 minutes? I could schedule appointments. I could return phone calls, answer emails, read a book, listen to an audiobook. We forget that we can make our time work for us instead of, I'm not just sitting there for 45 minutes wasting time. I'm making the time work for me. And it's not just that way with appointments. It's that way with everything. Like, I know Christmas is coming up. A lot of people like to wait until the last minute to get gifts, but then they're scrambling and stressed and they're not enjoying the holiday. But you don't necessarily have to plan out every detail of what you're going to get for who, but think about it 2 months earlier and incorporate getting gifts into your schedule then so that you're not rushing yourself at Christmas.
So good, so good. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm joined with Brittany Clark, and we're talking about this one habit. We're talking about the habit of being proactive. That the reality of it is if you want 2025 to be a phenomenal year, you're going to have to be proactive and incorporate intentional behavior today, this weekend, the rest of this month. Now, I see we have Miss Jocelyn joining us. We have Deacon Dan joining us. We got people joining us, and I'm so glad you guys are joining us. Please share this, because I think more now than ever, people need to be reminded that during the holiday season, be proactive. Now, here's the deal. Christmas comes every year. Thanksgiving comes every year. 4th of July comes every year, and there are people who aren't learning. They're not learning because they're locked into reactive. Brittany, there was a time in my life where I just simply said, hey, listen, I got to get out of the reacting, because it was always something. It was always something. It was back to school season. Then it was the Halloween season. It's Labor Day. Then, it's Thanksgiving. Then it's Christmas. Then it's Valentine's. Then it's spring break. And then it's Mother's Day. Then it's Father's Day. Then it's summer break. And then it's back to school. And then and the cycle continues. And it's like you're running behind something. And I was talking to a gentleman a couple of weeks ago, and he said, I just haven't had a vacation. I haven't had a time to enjoy life for me. Miller, I want to learn how to enjoy life for me. And I'm like, but you could do that today.
Yep.
You could do that this weekend. So when I talk about this whole being intentional, Brittany, I want you to help us understand or talk a little bit about, for those people who are watching, who you could change some things this Christmas to be intentional about it, because you want to have a better 2025. So you make some adjustments for 2024 Christmas. And by 2025 Christmas, somebody said, oh, she went to the next level. Oh, he went to the next level. But what they didn't see was your price you paid, the sacrifice you made, the proactive engagement that you started incorporating 12 months earlier. So that's sacrifice, the sacrificial piece of being intentional. Have you ever found yourself having to be dealing with being sacrificial and saying, oh, Lord, I can pay now or I can pay later. Either way, I'm going to pay. And being proactive would have you to benefit from not having to pay later. What's your view?
Yes, there are so many ways of my life that I practice being proactive. One of them is I know that I am getting ready to plan out all the major things that I want to accomplish in 2025. Mm-hmm. And lists work well for me. So one day I will list out all the things, the big things that I want to accomplish. And then I am incorporating time in my schedule. I very detail, write out my schedule, because in my plan day to day, because I want to use all of my time wisely and intentionally. And I will fit into my schedule, writing out almost step by step how I can accomplish those plans, because if I know how I can accomplish them, I'm not overwhelmed by them, and I feel like I can actually achieve them, so that by, like you said, by 2025 Christmas, I will be able to say I knocked out these 10 things and I feel great.
Yeah. Now you're a mom, and you're a woman. And being a mom, you got a son who like, man, he wants this, he wants this, he wants this. You could pay now, get him everything he wants now, and still be struggling later. Or you could say, hey, we're not going to do that this year, but in a couple of years, we're going to be doing that, because I have to prioritize when you look at that list, right? Or you could say, as a woman, well, this is Christmas season. I got to get my nails done. I got to get my hair done. I want to do this. I want to do that. Or you could say, hey, I'm going to have delayed gratification, right? I'm going to put it off for now, because there are some things, when you look at that list, you say there are some things that's really important that I don't want to find myself falling back on. And ladies and gentlemen, that's a part of assessing where you are. So this next word I want to look at is called focus. Staying focused. How has that been for you, Brittany? Because I know for me, it's not easy to stay focused, but I had found a couple of ways to help me to stay focused. Like you mentioned, the list. The list will help me. I wrote my list today. I have a list that I was like, man, bam, bam, bam. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. And I'm grateful that by the end of the night, that list kept me. What about you? What do you find to be the thing that helps you to stay focused?
My number one question that I ask myself that helps me to stay focused, because I am easily distracted. I like shiny things. And so sometimes I see something and I may be going one way, but I see something else and I'm like, oh, I could do that, or I could get that. My question that I ask myself, and even as simple as like, I'm going through a fitness journey, even as simple as I want that piece of chocolate. My question is, will it positively affect my life in the long run, or will it give me gratification right now? So with anything, if I feel like I want to buy something, will this help me for 2 years or for 5 years, or will it just make me happy right now? And if it won't make me happy, or if it won't help my life for a long time, then I pass it by and I keep going.
Now that's high level discipline. Okay, that's some really high level discipline. There is some people out there who says, man, I desire to be focused, but I can't stay focused. Like you said, I like shiny stuff, but I've not paid attention to my habits. And I didn't realize that the mall, I have a weakness for the food court when I go by the mall. And what they sell a lot of chocolates in that area, and I like chocolate. Or I have a weakness that falls into being a trigger for fast food lines. I've been telling myself I'm not going to do it. Or I have this habit of eating late. It's not that I have not, watch this, it's not that I am not doing certain things right, but I am not I'm doing a couple of things wrong. And I haven't called myself out on those couple of things. A couple of those things like eating late, have an addiction for a drive-through line, or I know people, Brittany, I know people who have incorporated this idea. When I get paid, I got to go treat myself with a meal. And they say, I got to treat myself with a meal. I got to treat myself with an outfit. And that's extremely reactive. That's extremely reactive. That's not being proactive at all. That's not even being intentional. It's not being focused, because focus helps you to accomplish vision.
Yes.
Focus helps you to accomplish vision. So if you say you got somewhere you really want to go, you want to write it down. Brittany mentioned that early on. then you want to stay focused, but then you have to identify what's my weakness. I've been calling it, are you familiar with the term kryptonite, Superman and the
Yep.
kryptonite? What happens when Superman gets close to kryptonite, Brittany?
It weakens him.
It weakens him. Now, here's the crazy thing. Everybody has a kryptonite.
Yes.
Some of us just hasn't acknowledged what our kryptonite. Some people, it's the remote. Man, they get the remote in their hand and they forget all their responsibility.
Yep.
Some people, kryptonite is a buffet line. You be like, listen, man, just bring me the food. And then watch this. I don't know about you, but there are certain food, if after I finish eating it, man, I can't do nothing. I mean, it has me laid out, right? I'm like totally shut down. So I got to watch. Miss Cynthia, there's certain food I got to watch. Miss Johnson, there's certain food I got to watch. I can't eat everything because it'll get me. Brittany, when you think about that whole concept of people bypassing what their kryptonite is, what tip would you say? What would you say that you have to fight through? Because I know for me, I had to figure out, you know what? If I did these 3 things, it'll help me. You know, like I drink a lot of water. I always got water around. So rather than snack, drink. Right? Mm-hmm. Another one is, hey man, I try my best to do my little meal prep as well, or have some fruits in the car or something like that. So when I see that drive-through, I'm like, you know, you don't need that drive-through right now. You know, you don't need, because I love me some McDonald's fries. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love me some. I like this. I like that. What have you found to be something that helps you to stay focused?
My kryptonite, coach, is coffee. And I got myself into this routine every day before I went to work. I would get dressed, get my son dressed. We would get in the car. We would go get coffee. We would go to work. And then I was like looking at my bank statement or something. And I was like, wow, I'm spending a lot of money on coffee. And at first I was like, I started tracking, you know, every time I spent money, I started tracking it. And I was like, I could take all of this money and I could put it towards buying a coffee machine, because then I would be saving myself a lot of money just making my coffee at home. Mm-hmm. But by the time I had been so far removed from drinking coffee, I didn't really want coffee anymore. So I was able to save that money towards something else. My best advice would be to track, if it's your spending you're trying to get under control, track your spending. Because once you see where you're spending all of your money, you're going to be like, wait a minute. If I have $50 in this account and I'm trying to save 25 of it, you're gonna be more closely watching where you spend your money. If it's your diet, you're trying to get your diet in order, it's very easy to slip into that. I could just have this one cookie, I'll be fine. But if you start writing down everything that you eat, then you will start to say, oh, I'm eating a lot more cookies than I think I am. Everything comes with getting better at anything comes with having an awareness of how you are spending your time or spending your effort with that thing, is what I have found. And once I started tracking all of the things that I wanted to get better at, it made me more easily able to get those things under control.
Tracking is a game changer. Whew. Tracking is a game changer. It's the way never to be broke again when you start looking at your money. It's the way to get the most out of your time. Like you said, you get 24 hours within a day, 168 hours within a week. If you start looking at your seconds, your minutes, your hours, you start realizing, my God, you know what? I only work 30 hours a week, but I have 168 hours within the week. How in the world am I saying I don't have enough time? What am I doing with my time? So tracking is game changer. Thank you so much for sharing that, Brittany. Now, when we think about this whole concept of worrying about what you can control and not what you can't, I am really big on this one right now. What can I control? What can I not control? Huge game changer. Have you thought about that? Have you really sat in that? I can do something about this. I can't do something about this. Well, you know, the amount of things we worry about that we have no control over, it's crazy the amount of things that literally people are freaking out over that they have no control over. I'm like, why are you freaking out? You ain't got no control over that. And then what they have control over, they have abandoned because they're thinking so much about the things they don't have no control over. What's your view? How have you been doing? And ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, how are you doing? Ladies and gentlemen, as you're watching, how are you doing with managing? What do I have control over? What do I not have control over? And then here's how you can remind yourself. There are certain things you don't have no control over today, but 6 months from now, you can have control over it if you are intentional. If you get focused, you could say, hey, today I have no control, but by January, I'm going to have some control. That whole concept, what I have control over, what I don't have control over. What's your view on it?
Well, as you know, I work at a daycare and I work in the baby room. And honestly, working in the baby room with babies, even though I have a son, has really changed my perspective on things that I can control and things that I can't, because I am very attention to detail and I very closely feed them on time, change them on time, and I still can't control if they are fed and changed and they have been held. I still can't control if they're crying over something else, you know? That has changed my whole perspective on worrying about things that you can't control, because there are only so many things, so many pieces of anything that you can control,
Right.
you know? And now I just don't. I know what I can control and I know what I can't, and I don't stress if it goes a different way.
So good. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm talking with Brittany, and we're talking about this whole one habit. We're talking about Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and that we could start being more intentional. We could start focusing more. We could start identifying, what is it that I have control over? What is it that I don't have control over? Now, here's the deal. The better you get in these areas, the better your life will be. That's why this platform is called Build Your Best Life. Now, if you have a son, you want to tell your son, hey, there's some things you have no control over, but there are some things you do have control over. And your life will be extremely phenomenal when you learn to do well with what you have control over. Okay, so it's all about mastery of what you have control over. What you don't have control over, you pray about and put in God's hand. You say, oh Lord, I can't do nothing about this. Now, here's the deal, Brittany. There are times we say we have no control, but that's because we haven't increased our skill set.
Yes.
To manage this thing, so we feel like it's out of control, but we can acquire the skill to get some control. You see?
Yes.
So we can acquire control. Even at one point, we may have not had any control. So you meet some people and they're like, my life was messed up for the longest, but I had to learn how to take control. Have you ever found yourself having to take control?
Yes. I actually have found myself needing to take control in several different times in my life. And some of those times I have had to objectively look at my life and figure out what's working for me and what isn't, and change those things up. And sometimes you can make a cold turkey change, and sometimes you have to make a change gradually, but it's about the effort that you put into it. You know, I kind of think back to working a job. You know, you can work a job and you can have a manager that's really terrible, and you could go every single day and think, man, if I was a manager, I would do things this way, or I would do things that way. Well, your next step would be to think about, do I want to be a manager, and how do I achieve those steps? Because I could be a better manager than my manager is.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reality of it is you could be better than the manager that you're under. And so you just got to believe, you got to see, you got to understand. Today, we're talking about this whole concept of one habit, and it's all based on Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The concept of being proactive, something we all can improve in. There are so many people, they are frustrated because they are reactive. and reaction is causing them to carry a level of stress that is unnecessary. So, Father God, help me, because I fall short in this area at times. I'm still working on it. And I'm here today to tell you, don't beat yourself up if you're not doing well in this area. Just make a commitment to grow every day. So let's go ahead and talk about this whole formulating what proactive habits work and how do we stick with it. So we're formulating a plan, okay? And you say, it's okay, I'm going to start thinking a week ahead. I'm going to start thinking a month ahead. And I'm going to start writing that down, right?
Yep.
You know, habits, they're hard to break when they've become ingrained, but they can be broken. You know, people say, well, you know, I remember I never wrote down anything, but now I write them down. I remember I didn't have anybody to hold me accountable, but now I have somebody to hold me accountable. I remember when I was just living for the day, but now I am now living for the next year, the next 3 years, the next 5 years. I remember when I just, whatever came, I spent, but now I'm not just spending what comes, I'm being intentional to put something aside. Brittany, let's talk about that for a minute, being proactive to establish habits that will stick. What are some of the habits that you find that sticks that really can help people to move forward?
One of my, I jokingly say this is my favorite habit, but it is getting ready in the mornings. I get up, I do all of my chores, and I get ready for work. And then I get my son up and I get him ready for school and I give him his breakfast. And then we go to work and school. And then we come home and we have the evenings to hang out together, read books, work on his workbook, go do my daily exercise. It just sets my day up for success to have those things taken care of. And before, I didn't have any control over, I felt like I didn't have any control over my day. I was always frantically trying to figure out what to do next. How am I going to get from this place to this place in time to do this? But now I just feel like I can breathe, and doing all of those things before work is like I've created a new muscle memory. It's like it doesn't even feel like I'm doing chores. I'm just getting ready for work.
So do you believe that you feel as though you've taken responsibility for your action? Because that's really one of the biggest things. You know, I teach a lot that we are the subtotal of the choices and the decisions we make on a daily basis. So being proactive, knowing that I want next week to be better than this week, I can make some adjustments, but I have to take responsibility for my action. Now, that's a painful thing, Brittany.
Yes.
You know, there are a lot of times we could show people how they've been responsible for our pain. A lot of times we don't know how to show ourselves how we have made the pain that we experience, the pain that we have.
That is so true, Coach. I think most people struggle with taking responsibility for their actions, and it takes a lot of self-awareness and forethought to say, hey, I've done this incorrectly or I've done it wrong. And, you know, sometimes you have to literally map out or list out how you can do it differently. And it's also, like you and so many other people have said before, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Instead of saying, oh, I need to do all of these things to improve my life or make it better or be more organized. It's, you know, starting with one habit and getting into a good rhythm with that, and then saying, I've got a good handle on this, I can add another one, and you just keep adding them and keep going until you're in a place where they don't feel like chores or habits anymore. It's just muscle memory.
Brittany, you're a mom, you're raising a son. It oftentimes is difficult. What have been some of the key things that you had to be like, you know what? I need to incorporate this as a muscle memory. I need to be more proactive in regards to this with my son. Give our viewing audience a few things that even if you haven't mastered it yet, you're like, I'm working through these things because these are very important to raising a boy as a mom. What would you say?
One of the biggest things that I'm working on, and I am teaching others while I work on this, is being careful what you say. Sometimes we think if we just say, we get upset with ourselves, we mess something up, we get upset with ourselves, we talk badly to ourselves. But what we don't understand, especially when we have kids, is that they hear us. So when they hear us talking badly about ourselves, even though if they mess up and we say, oh, it's okay, it's no big deal, we'll just clean it up and keep going, it's fine. But they've heard us get upset with ourselves before, so they start talking to themselves the same way. And one thing that we have incorporated into our daily routine is affirmations. We say affirmations every day. I do a good job. I am handsome. I work well with my friends. I can be kind to others. I can be friendly. We say affirmations every day so that he is in the practice of speaking good things about himself rather than repeating the things around that people say around him, because he's at that age where he repeats everything that he hears and he says everything.
So good. So good. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're joined with Brittany Clark. We're talking about this whole concept of being proactive. I'm sitting in for Coach Deborah today. It's a joy and a delight of mine. I would like to encourage you to prayerfully consider becoming a partner with Build Your Best Life. Go ahead, go to the website, buildyourbestlife.org, and become a partner. Here's what that's going to do. That's going to help us to be able to continue platform services like this. There is a lot that Coach Deborah wants to do in 2025, and having individuals like you support her would make for a blessing. I'm on her board, and I'm proud to be a part of her team. And so today I'm saying, as you heard Brittany and I talk about some things, it triggered you. It brought to real remembrance. It helped you to think through some things that may have been put on the sidebar for a moment. Take it up and tell yourself, I need to be proactive. I need to be intentional. I need to stay focused. I need to not allow myself to worry about things I can't control. Brittany, what is your closing remarks for our viewing audience as you've seen this whole concept of trying to be intentional, but it's difficult, trying to stay focused, but it's difficult, trying to learn how to not to let what you can't control take you out? Give us your closing remarks.
My best advice is to plan and list out everything so that you are focused more on the things that you are doing day to day and what you can control, and the things that you can't control will bother you less and less.
So good. So good. So ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. This has been Thursday Night Live with Coach Ricardo Miller and Brittany Clark. And we want you to know, focus on the one habit, the habit that moves you towards being proactive and not reactive. Now, here's the deal. If you've enjoyed this talk, please go ahead and share it with someone. Let them know, hey, Build Your Best Life is a virtual platform you want to follow, be a part of, stay connected with. And if you enjoy this, go ahead and go to the website and learn how to be a partner. Brittany, until next time, God bless you. Have a great evening. Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much, Coach.
You're welcome.